Since the beginning of time, power, speed, and beauty have been strong elements of focus. Since Carl Benz invented the first automobile back in 1886, billions of dollars have been spent on engineering and aesthetic design to achieve what some call the ultimate vehicle. Cars that possess the essentials of power, speed, and beauty. Since Benz received the first patent for an automobile, it seems natural we should examine one of the premier examples of Mercedes-Benz engineering, the 300 SL.
The Gullwing Coupe boasts a rare breeding, actually the refinement of a car that was developed for Formula One and FIA sports car racing in Europe in the early 50s. Although rather heavy and cumbersome at first glance, the tubular frame helped considerably in reducing the coupe's weight to just over 2,600 pounds. The gullwing doors were actually a necessity of design. The tubular chassis stiffened the car, and in order to maintain a geometry of integrity, the tubes were extended upward from the horizontal plane of the chassis. Because of this, easy entrance and exit from the car could not be had with conventional laterally opening doors, hence the innovation of the gullwing configuration. Even with these doors, a graceful ingress or egress is not always possible. Because of the 300 SL's forebear's success in racing, much interest by American aficionados was generated in the 50s. The SL was formally introduced to America at the New York Auto Show in 1954, and the Hoffman Motor Company began importation to satisfy a great demand in 1955. The single overhead cam 2996cc six-cylinder engine was derived from the 300S power plant and was rated at 220 horsepower as delivered and 240 horsepower if fitted with an optional racing camshaft, which was to be included on all later Roadsters automatically. The dry sump oil system and its large cooler allowed the 300 SL to cruise at higher speeds almost indefinitely. The SLs were the first cars to utilize mechanical gasoline fuel injection, a very rare innovation in those days. A selection of many gear ratios for the four-speed transmission also allowed the owner to custom make his driving package to suit his personal needs. With proper gearing, top speeds could exceed 160 miles per hour, with 0 to 60 being reached in 7.7 seconds and 100 miles per hour eclipsed at 15 seconds. A typical quarter-mile time was in the low 15-second bracket.
Without roll-up windows, the car was rather warm inside. This fact urged Mercedes to produce a roadster version, which became very popular. In the mid-60s, Ford launched a three-pronged marketing attack to boost both image and sales. The GT350, along with the Cobras and the GT40 racing cars, were to be a part of that attack. In 1964, Shelby was blowing everybody away with his Cobras, and at the same time was given the GT40 program to make it a Le Mans winner. Simultaneously, the Ford Motor Company decided to give the highly successful Mustang line a real shot in the arm. In order to boost the Mustang's image, it would have to be put on the racetrack and would have to go fast and would have to be a winner. To make the car eligible for Sports Car Club of America racing, 100 examples had to be built. Carroll Shelby knew that with minor changes and not excessive development costs, that the Mustang could be made into a winner. So with Ford's permission, he ordered up 100 examples to be sent to his Los Angeles factory for immediate modification and homologation. The cars chosen for this program were basically two-door hatchbacks. They were all painted white. They all had the 289 high-performance engine and were delivered with a Borg-Warner T10 four-speed transmission with close ratio gears. Other special order items included Dutch-made Coney shock absorbers and ventilated front disc brakes, along with Goodyear high-speed blue dot tires. Contrasting blue side stripes were an obvious Shelby touch, but the stripes down the center of the car were an option. Other Shelby goodies included 5 by 15-inch Krager custom wheels and side-exiting exhaust pipes. The high-performance 289 engine was Shelbyized, or should we say Cobraized, with an aluminum high-rise intake manifold, finned aluminum valve covers, a large aluminum oil pan, steel exhaust headers, and a high-performance racing-type Holley carburetor. Using Ford's latest high-lift cam, the GT350 was rated at 306 horsepower with 329 foot-pounds of torque. To keep the front end from moving around in a racing situation, a triangulated steel stamping was fitted from the shock towers to the firewall, and a round bar from shock tower to shock tower increased front-end rigidity substantially. Steering ratio was shortened a bit to provide a little quicker response. Shelby provided his own serial number plate covering the factory stamping made at the San Jose plant. He also provided the front hood, which ended up in about 6 different configurations of fiberglass and metal before they got it right. The interior of the Shelbys were not drastically changed, although they were all black in the early years. Full competition seat belts were installed to give the driver a secure feeling. The Mustang GT optional dashboard was standard. Most obvious in this option was the 8,000 RPM tachometer and oil pressure module added to the center of the dash. Several variations of the steering wheel were used over the years, but one thing for sure, the horn button stayed on the dash.
Through the years, from 1965 to 1970, the Shelby evolved into a heavier, more complex car. Let's see how Shelby owners enjoy the performance that is built into their cars.
One of their favorite games is a relay race, in which several 5-car groups compete, one car at a time circulating the track for 3 laps, then entering the pits. A runner touches the car and then scoots to the next car in line, signaling it to go. This is an exciting and a reasonably safe event for Shelby owners who take a lot of pride in ownership of their automobiles and certainly don't want to lose their precious investment.
Watching the runners is almost as much fun as watching the Shelbys. There is also sufficient track time to take friends and relatives for a ride, impressing them with how your Shelby handles on the race course. A unique experience, to be sure, and one that Shelby owners enjoy very much. As you can see, the start is the most exciting part of the afternoon. This local inhabitant, however, is not impressed. Carroll Shelby's successful career as a racer and automobile constructor is legend to sports car fans. Much has been told of the farmer turned designer, so we shall not concentrate on the telling here. Rather, let's explore his wonderful hybrid, the Cobra, in some rather deep detail. The mating of the English AC body and chassis with Detroit's Ford V8 was a natural marriage. It satisfied the needs of the AC company, which wanted to increase sales. It satisfied the needs of Shelby, who wanted to build an affordable yet scrappy production racer. The timing was good for Ford as well, as they were just beginning their total performance program, which was to evolve into the GT40 and Shelby GT350 racing efforts. During December 1962, Shelby's original Cobra contract with AC Cars involved the construction of the first 100 automobiles, which included serial numbers CSX0001 through CSX2200. CSX stood for Carroll Shelby Export. Although Shelby intended the Cobra to be a racing car, it was necessary 100 cars be constructed in order to be homologated as a production automobile. Hence, the first batch of Cobras were outfitted in full street trim, as we see here. This is CSX 2046, the 46th Cobra constructed. The first 75 cars in the series utilized the Ford 260 cubic inch engine. When Ford ceased production of this power plant, they made the 289 cubic inch motor available. All Cobras used this larger motor until the 427 cubic inch engine was adopted. Side wind deflectors are one of the many options made available for the Cobra by Shelby American. The body of the Cobra was hand-formed from sheet aluminum 45,000ths of an inch thick. The body was stretched and riveted over a rugged tubular steel chassis, strong enough to contain the torque of the V8. The 289 cubic inch Ford engine expelled 271 horsepower and featured solid lifters, a high-performance camshaft, and a 460 CFM Autolite carburetor.
The Cobra was also produced in both street and racing versions utilizing their 427 engine. This car, known as the 427 SC, was produced strictly for racing. Note the widened and flared fenders. "7.5-inch Hallebrand wheels were mounted at the front. "9.5-inch versions were mounted at the rear.
The SCs used the 427 medium riser with single or dual carburetor options. This example uses a single Holley 850 CFM carburetor with center squirter. This engine generates approximately 520 horsepower in its present state of tune. Air for the center squirter is drawn through the hood. SCs used a 42-gallon fuel tank, and an auxiliary electric fuel pump moved gasoline to the carburetor more effectively.
The 427's performance on the track is best explained by this footage from a 1984 vintage car race. The Cobra had a brother, known as the GT40. It was built in several versions, but many considered the J car, or Mark IV, the ultimate race car.
It was totally conceived and constructed in Detroit, late in 1965. The basis for this chassis was to be an aluminum honeycomb monocoque, similar to that being used in the aerospace industry. This new car, with its lighter chassis and its improved 427 cubic inch engine, now putting out over 500 horsepower, made its international competition debut in April of 1967. And an auspicious first outing it was. It was Sebring, with Mario Andretti and Bruce McLaren driving the car to victory at an average speed of 102.9 miles per hour. Ford was so impressed with this victory, they quickly readied 4 cars for the 1967 Le Mans 24-hour race. The Mark IV was slated to replace the Mark IIAs of the previous year. The engine remained the 427, but with a new dry deck design and a lightweight cast iron block. Other new features included twin Holley 4-barrel carburetors and a dry sump oil system. The 427 developed 470 foot-pounds of torque at 5,000 RPM and was fed by twin gas tanks holding a total of 41 gallons. The compression ratio of the 500 horsepower motor was 10.75 to 1, and the entire engine weighed 560 pounds.
To appreciate a GT40's performance, let's watch Sterling Moss negotiate the high-speed Le Mans course.
You accelerate away at the pits of Le Mans, the 24-hour circuit of endurance. But then almost at once you've got a very difficult corner. It's a bit blind, and you can't see far around it. Then you're accelerating again, under the first Dunlop Bridge and down the hill, and into the S's, 2 very fast left and right-handed. You're really using your brakes and all the road, and I mean all the road, over the white lines on both sides and right up alongside the banks. Pull away down this short straight before breaking again to Terre Rouge. It's a very slow corner, actually, with a sandbank there on the left. Try and keep out of it. So now we've started on the Mulsanne Straight. This is the real straight, although there's a kink at each end. And this is where the speeds really go up. Over 150 miles an hour now, and we're not even flat out yet. And yet you can see the way the white lines flash past. Now we're getting on towards the halfway down the straight and approaching maximum speed, over 200 miles an hour. It can get darn difficult here at night, particularly when you can see a couple of red lights ahead and you can't tell whether you're chasing a slow car doing, shall we say, 110 miles an hour, or a really fast one. That is, of course, unless you catch up with it. And during the 24 hours, you will brake about 2,500 times. Now this is a fast 5-litre GT car weighing over 2,000 pounds. And that means that during the race, the brakes will be running at more than 600 degrees centigrade for the whole of the 24 hours, except, of course, during pit stops when I can tell you they get a darn sight hotter than that. And now we're getting near the end of the straight, and we're at full bore. And here's the right-hand curve that you take very fast, just before the braking zone. You begin to brake about 500 yards from the corner, and you start to come down from about 200 miles an hour plus to 45 or 50. The signalling area, there on the right of the corner, keeps in touch with the pits right through the race. Slowly round now, with the sandbank on the left. The unlucky ones, of course, finish up digging themselves out. Accelerating, and now we're on the 3rd fastest part of the circuit, before the corner they call Indianapolis. Up to about 180 miles an hour here, before braking slightly for a couple of very fast right-hand curves leading into Indianapolis. And there you can see the whiteboard at the end marking the right-hand corner. Indianapolis is 2 corners really. There's this small right first, which you slow for, and then you brake hard for this, the main corner. Round Indianapolis, In a very short straight here, accelerating hard before braking equally hard again for a sharp corner at Arnage. Arnage is another slow right-hand up with a sandbank, which for some reason people don't seem to get in as often as the others. Out of Arnage, accelerating, building up to the second fastest part of the track, approaching 190 miles an hour. A few of these slight curves, some people seem to lift off for them. These are the really dangerous ones, though, when you're travelling fast. The track can curve, and you don't. Somehow you go straight off. The next is certainly the most difficult section of the circuit, up to 190 in places, and slightly blind before the White House corner. Now here's White House. We go on accelerating now, all the way up to the new chicane that slows us right down to 50 miles an hour or so before the pits. Second lap, you may change your braking technique a bit, but you've got to get it right first time. Otherwise, you just won't come round again.
The Porsche 930 Turbo has become a familiar sight on American roads since it was first imported into the United States in 1976. Its reputation and horsepower have increased over the years to the point where it is a genuine supercar. But it had a sister, known in racing circles as the 935. Now that was a real supercar. This 935 may be retired now, but when it reaches 200 miles per hour on Riverside's back straight, it is still a thrill. To keep Ferrari fans excited, there's the 512 BBLM Boxer, a rare sight. Only 25 of these cars were ever built. A full competition version of the famous 512 BB, the LM never saw much racing success. Instead, it ended up in the hands of private individuals who enjoy the car on casual outings to racetracks throughout the country. It possesses all the essentials of power, speed, and beauty. To put a 12-cylinder Ferrari on the street, you need a Testarossa. It offers all of the essentials we've been discussing, along with reasonable comfort and an excellent air conditioner. The Testarossa can approach 200 miles per hour if you can find the room in which to do it. But at the same time, it is a very civilized, everyday car for the street. The Countach, the reigning king of supercars for many years. It's not the fastest, nor the most expensive, but it has the most outrageous looks of any car in the world. That alone will get a Countach owner more ego-boosting attention than he ever thought possible. The Countach does what it was designed to do: go fast and look good. For more than 30 years, the American Corvette has taken on the European challenge in the sports car category. Since 1982, when it took on a complete redesign, the Corvette has held up well in handling and performance. The lateral acceleration figures generated by the Corvette have become the standard by which other sports cars are compared. It is constantly being tested by automotive magazines and tire companies, all seeking to achieve that ultimate lateral acceleration of 1G. While it's easy for race cars to achieve this figure on slicks, it's another story trying to achieve it on a street car with normal street tires. The Corvette has become a world-class sports car in the truest sense of the word.